Etepu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Haru Nefer. This is Qesankh Keperu with another video for you. And in this video, we're going to do a talk about the problem with modern relationships. But before I do that, I want you to hit the like button on this video. If this is your first time to my channel, hit the subscribe bell to get notifications on when I go live and when I upload recorded videos. If you are interested in knowing more about my spiritual teachings, you can scroll down below and click on any one of the ebook links, and you can download a free ebook and start reading right away. However, if that's not enough for you, you can become a Patreon supporter for as little as $1, $5, or $20 per month. You get exclusive access to instructional videos on the spiritual and on the esoteric, videos that will teach you how to meditate, proper breathing exercises, how to work with your guardian angel, how to do astral projection, lucid dreaming, and so much more. And remember that there's no obligation. You can cancel at any time. Next, be sure to share this video with family and friends so we can get the revolution started. Haru Nefer, Grand Rising, Namaste. So I want to touch base with all of you today on this idea of the modern relationships. Now, I have been taking a look at this and trying to be objective in a way of what I'm seeing that's really taken place on social media and anecdotally to see what the problem is. And there are a number of problems. But I want to just start and just let you know right away, before we get into the depth and breadth of this conversation, that I'm not here to take a side or insult anyone, but merely just to state the truth or state the facts. And the idea behind this is that we have a lot of work to do. And if we can start that work, we can have more prosperous and better relationships. Unfortunately, what I am seeing now is an intervention into this concept of relationship by the powers that be. And we can always trace these back to the global elite, because whether many choose to accept it or not, they benefit by global depopulation. So their efforts are always going to be leaning toward dysfunctional relationships. And we can see this in many policies that they put forth, such as, like putting certain groups ahead of others. And this is an example of what is happening with the LGBTQ community, where ADOS and FBA people have been fighting for reparations for years and years and years. And instead of the government taking action to grant these reparations, which have been justified 1,000 times over, we see now that the focus has been more on the LGBTQ community in terms of movies, legislation, and media coverage. And that's by design. Now, I'm not here to pass judgment. I'm not saying that the organization is bad or good. I'm just letting you know that there is some nefarious things going on behind the scenes. Now, one of the things that happened recently, which was a powerful shift in this whole idea of relationships, was a man came along by the name of Kevin Samuels, who had a channel. And what he tried to do was to put out information, and it was specifically geared toward FBA ADOS women who would call in, and he would offer advice to them. Now, I watched his channel, and I thought he had a lot of good things to say, and I thought there were some bad things. And one of the things that really unnerved me of what he was saying that kind of caught on was the idea of women only wanting a man making six figures. And this is absolutely not true. Women, and the facts and the data support this, especially Black women, have never been out there searching for guys. In other words, they go on a date and they ask the guy, the first thing is, how much money do you make? That's not accurate. Women have never done that. And I think a lot of this was taken out of context as to what Kevin Samuels was trying to say, to the point now it's been parroted by many other channels. See, when Kevin Samuels passed on, a lot of copycats came out of the woodworks trying to capitalize off the vacancy that he left. And what they were saying was that women were looking for, quote, high value men. And they translated this as being men making over six figures. And that's not necessarily what Kevin Samuels was talking about. So this caught on and went viral, and it was parroted by many of these channels. And if you were to really look at the data by women who were pregnant or having babies by more than one man, the data showed that most of these men that they were getting pregnant by, hooking up with, made less than $25,000 a year. So out the door goes that whole idea of these women running around looking for six-figure salary men. It just wasn't true. But the other copycats perpetuated this to where now it has become a type of belief that these women are out there looking for these so-called high-value men. And men are finding it very difficult to compete, especially men who, we know Black men on average, what do they make? About $45,000 a year. So they were finding themselves out in the cold, but it was just a myth. It wasn't true. And that they are still in the running, you know. But this is something, again, that Kevin Samuels had started, and it was misunderstood by the copycats. And then it just went viral. And now, you know, the notion is that women want men with money. And unless you're a gold digger, I guess, you know what I mean? But I wanted to take a quick look for those. And if you don't know who Kevin Samuels is, then you probably been under a rock, because he's been everywhere. So let me just see if I can play a little bit of his video. Let's see. Okay. Fair use here. It is fair use.
I'm good, and you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm kind of nervous.
That's okay. You're just talking to me. Don't pay attention to YouTube. You and I are just talking.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Okay, let me go ahead.
All right, that sounds good.
What do you got for me? Let me go ahead and put my view up here so you can see me.
Okay, so basically the story is I'm 22 and I'm in nursing school.
Mm-hmm.
I graduate next December, and like I'm really trying to get serious about like dating more high value men, and I have met like one person that I would consider high value, but I'm not sure of like how to go about it, because I'm 12 years younger than him. So I'm like trying to figure out, what does he want from me? Like, how do I kind of go about it?
How old is he? I mean, do you know if he's, wait, first off, you got your eye on him?
Mm-hmm. He has his eye on me. He came to, he drove about 2 hours to come visit me at school.
Okay.
Just someone like I've just like talked to and met. It's not someone like I went and chased down.
Okay, I need to be clear. You said that
Mm-hmm.
you're in nursing school.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do the we do yes or no.
Yes.
All right. And he said he approached you how?
Via social media.
To do what? He approached you to date?
Yeah,
Yes.
just get to know each other.
Okay. To what end?
Um, See, he wasn't specific on that, and I didn't say anything. I was just trying to
Well,
kind of
see,
see like
that's
how
a
it plays
problem.
out.
He's 34, approaching a 22-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, not a, he's 34, approaching a 22-year-old with an
Yes.
undetermined goal. That's not good.
Okay.
He should know. And see, there's a lot of things wrong with this. One, 34-year-old man should not be approaching a 22-year-old woman without a plan. Number one. Number two, you should not be trying to figure out how to get on his plan. Where's your dad?
Me and my dad haven't spoken since I was 9.
Okay. Why?
Yeah. He was really abusive,
To whom?
and so to my mom and to me
Hold on.
when I was really young.
Let me hold on now. I gotta ask some questions here.
Mm-hmm.
Abusive to you. See, this abuse.
Like physically abusive.
Okay.
Physically
Okay.
abusive.
All right.
Yes.
So again, due respect, I don't know. Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have a little brother.
And is he not?
I'm the oldest.
So did you mean abusive? I mean, you got a whooping or you got a broken arm?
No, it wasn't towards just, it was more like emotionally abusive towards me, but he was physically abusive towards my mom. So
Okay, ma'am.
split.
I gotta be real with you. Your father's relationship with your mother has nothing to do with your father. He is your father. See, far too many of our women want to throw men away and then wonder why you don't know men.
I didn't throw him away. He
I
just never
said
talked.
far
We just
too many of. Okay, I said far too. Okay, let me make it
Okay.
clear. Okay, you got some issues with
Yes, sir.
dad,
I know.
so you're not going to fix them on this call, and you're not going to act as though I don't know what I'm talking about. You need to get this square. You need to get your daddy issues in check before you deal with any men. And when I asked you
I've
about
tried
your
to like,
father, you're telling me about what he did with your mother, and that is not your concern. That was those two grown people. You said he was abusive, and I gotta tell you, what I'm expecting to hear is he broke my arm or broke my leg, and we had to be removed into protective custody. And that's not what I hear often from women. What I often hear from women is a child's point of view on what they saw between two adults, and you don't know. It's all it'll come down to. You don't know. And why is that relevant? Well, daddy issues end up having issues with men in general. Where is your father?
I don't know. Like we haven't talked in like 13 years. We haven't talked.
Okay.
I've wanted to reach out, and I've always wanted to like, kind of, I'm not trying to make this into like a daddy issues type of show, but I've tried my best to kind of reach out, but like every time it comes to family, I'm always discouraged.
By who?
To actually,
the women.
My mom.
Exactly. Yeah. Parental alienation happens so often to women. See, I need you to listen to me. Okay. You're growing into your womanhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. We don't do
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right. Have you had boyfriends in the past?
Yeah, I had one.
Are you a virgin?
No.
All right. So you understand that relationships can be complicated.
Yes.
You cannot judge your father based upon what you saw at 8 years old between him and your mother. And I can almost guarantee your mother has not really told you anything positive or endearing about your father. And when you say you want to reach out to him, it's discouraged. That's all kind of problems. Like it or not, he is the man your mother chose to reproduce with once or how many times? Twice? You got your brothers by your father?
Just once. My mom got remarried.
Is she still married?
Yeah, they're still married.
All right. And your stepfather said what about your dad?
My stepdad doesn't really talk about my dad. No one really talks about my dad. He's just like, he's a kid. He's like, it's almost like he's a ghost.
Well, the only problem is
No
that's
one
your
talks about
father. I don't really give a shit about anybody else. That's your father. And you need to understand who you got a whole half of you out there that you don't know. And there's a daddy sized hole in your existence. This happens. So it makes sense now. 22, 34. Yeah, no. That's why I say therapy is so necessary with Black people. You don't need to be really worrying about relationships until you at least address these issues. And you're not
I
going to be
don't
able
want
to.
to like say,
Hmm?
I don't want to say like I haven't tried to like kind of address them, because I know I've always been extremely self-aware of like what's going on with
You
me
can't do it by
mentally, and like
yourself. You need to. Okay, I got to move on to another call. Let me just tell you this: you're too young. You don't know what's going on. This 34-year-old man, you got all these different things going on, ma'am. You need to address your issues, your father issues, your daddy issues with a licensed professional therapist. And you're not going to get any help with your mother, because I will tell you this: there are going to be things that will come out that you might be really surprised and shocked to hear that your mother was culpable and your father may not have been as guilty. It is not healthy to sit back and tell you you don't need to know your dad. You don't need to know anything about him. That's suspicious AF.
yes, sir. Thank you so much for talking with me.
You're welcome. And we
You
do
have a
this
good night.
often to our young girls. Let me ask this question. Who are love? You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I am well. What do you have for me?
So, I just wanted to ask more about. I know the topic was why are women so mad at high value men? And from my observation, I've seen that a lot of people just don't understand the definition of high value, which I see you explain it every time on your show.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's really the major issue. People really don't know what high value is, and it's just a misunderstood concept.
Well, how old are you?
I am 25.
25. Do you own a car?
Do I own a car?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Did you purchase that car?
Yes.
What make and model is it?
It's a Jeep Patriot.
A Jeep Patriot.
Mhm.
It has a value, right?
Yes.
If you were going to go try to sell it, you could only sell it between this dollar value and that dollar value. Could you go sell a Jeep Patriot on the market today for $100,000 used?
No,
Because it's not what?
it's not worth the same
It's
amount.
not
It
that
depreciates.
valuable.
Right.
Versus if you decided you wanted to go sell a Bentley of the same year used, could you get $100,000 for it as long as there hadn't been any kind of wrecks or accidents?
Yes.
We understand value. We do understand value. We don't like to ascribe value to people because it's very cold. It's very real. You ever go into a nightclub before?
A nightclub. Yeah, I've been to a club before.
You ever see the VIP line where the young pretty girls get in for free?
Yes.
Have you ever been in that line Or I mean, you know that line,
I have.
huh?
I have.
And then what about the women that weren't in that line?
They have attitudes and they're wondering why they're not getting in as
Hold on,
fast.
are they really wondering why, or do they know why?
They probably
There's no
know. I'm
probably,
sure they
man.
know.
There's no probably. They know. Tell
Okay.
me why you getting the VIP for free and they can't.
Because we're dressed up. So like when you go out, we're wearing dresses, we wear heels.
Okay,
So we
if you look like Precious in heels and a dress, could you get in the VIP?
no.
Okay, so let's not play. At 25,
It's
I
the
treat you as a grown woman at 25. And at 25, you understand that you have to be of a certain looks value to get into this place for free. And if you don't, you stand in line and pay with the dudes.
right.
So what's not to understand? We get this. It's just harsh.
That makes sense.
Right. So, do you want to be married?
Yes.
Okay. Any kid? You want to have children?
So I like the way that Kevin Samuels there really just kind of breaks down what the high value concept is all about. And he does it monetarily and also and how it is ascribed to looks, status, and so forth. But he's very clear in other videos that he has done that it's not all about monetary value. And I think too many people have taken that and run with it. Again, making it seem like men who are not in the six-figure range can't approach a woman or aren't entitled to a woman. That's absolutely not true. So that's Kevin Samuels. He passed away about, I think, a little over a year ago. And as I said, in his wake, many people have tried to fill his shoes, even going as far as converting their own channels, which were probably anything from cooking channels to channels about revolution to dating channels or relationship advice channel. And many of these people who are giving advice have never dated in their lives, and it's a very sad thing because they're just trying to capitalize and make money off this by giving away false advice. Fresh and Fit is probably one of those examples of these young men who don't have any real dating experience, but they were able to set up their channel and really raking a lot of bucks, So you have to watch out in terms of like who you're following, whose advice you're listening to. But we're entering an age in which we have to understand that not everything that we see on social media is created specifically by independent content creators. Some of it is propaganda that has been put there by agent provocateurs, agents from the government, agents from our shadow government, or agents from the elite. And it's meant to disseminate negative information and to basically keep the sexes apart. And one of the things that I feel was responsible for that is this movement called Men Going Their Own Way. It's called MGTOW. And MGTOW came out very early on with the idea of men kind of going their own way or being monks and not being concerned about relationships or women. And much of this springboarded off the film Fight Club. And Fight Club was one of those, it was a great film, which really talked about bucking the system, not conforming. But I had a big problem with the MGTOW movement because one of the things that it did was it kind of told men you don't need women, don't worry about women, and just build your life. Well, God made women for you, and you have a natural biological urge or a biological imperative to get with women and procreate. So you can try to turn that off, but eventually it will come back. And you'll see things like what happens when these men get old and go years and years without female contact, as in the Catholic Church. You have these instances of pedophilia, rampant and things of that nature. But that's another subject. I digress. The thing I want to talk about is, I think that MGTOW had an idea, meaning that men need to look out for themselves first and build their empires, look at their finances and get themselves together. But to tell them to basically go off and live as monks is just the wrong thing to do. And when you have someone telling you that, to me, that screams of some type of elite message out there. See, the elite, they work through these think tank organizations to disseminate information out there through various avenues, social media, mainstream media, movies, and they would love it if men would just suddenly say, forget it, we're not interested in women anymore. And this is where the whole Me Too movement came about, to attack men, specifically Black men, and to shame men for any type of approach to a woman. If a man goes up and tells a woman he's beautiful, then that is considered harassment. If the man looks at a woman the wrong way, that's harassment, because the man is responsible for how the woman feels, regardless as if her feelings are right or wrong. Especially in corporate America, where a man could just look at a woman wrong and he's written up in HR for sexual harassment. Then comes termination. Usually that's what follows. And the men has very little recourse, because once you are blamed for sexual harassment, you could win a court case, but your reputation is ruined, which is what the Me Too movement did. Because one of the things that were not talked about with the Me Too movement is that it was specifically gender oriented, meaning it was only talking about the plight of white women, let's say it that way. But it didn't discuss the plight of Black women, Latin women, Asian women. And more importantly, it didn't discuss the plight of Black men or men in general, because whether you realize it or not, especially in the record industry, there is a lot of we'll say the casting couch for men. And many men, as I said, especially in the music industry, have to give up the booty in order to get their record deals or label deals. And even the male actors have to give up the booty to move to the next level in their careers. But this was never addressed, you see, because there was a clandestine or an agenda behind the Me Too movement, which is to shame the men for any type of an approach to women. This would keep the two apart, create the gender conflict, and reduce the population, and reduce marriages, reduce the amount of babies. And we can see that if you clearly look at how these different efforts all meet a same goal, there is a nexus point. And that point is depopulation. That point is creating the rift between the genders. If they really were sincere, that Me Too movement would have addressed the issue in Hollywood in totality with both male and female casting couch issues. If we really were just in what we were doing and trying to eliminate any type of, sexual harassment, we would look at it in both contexts, from the male perspective and the female perspective. And we wouldn't have such notions come out, such as believe all women. But let's go on and discuss this. You see, especially when we look at the ADOS and the FBA communities, we see that there are a lot of relationship problems. And one of the things that I have noticed right out the gate is that in these relationships, when they discuss things like, she's not letting me see my baby, he's the baby daddy, but he don't want to give me child support. All of these things, one of the things that we see is absent from these discussions is the word love. Because this was never taught, promoted within these communities. It's okay to have a child with a guy, but he's not the guy you want to marry. So it's very interesting that you make such an important decision as having a child with this guy, but yet you don't want to marry him. And many institutions that were supposed to check this have failed. One of them is the Christian church, which you'll find on every corner in the Black community. They were the ones that were supposed to instill the idea of a relationship being based upon love and not hormones, sexual desire, hitting it quick. So the church has failed miserably in the Black community in that sense. Because nowhere in a discussion, when you see this rift in the genders, is there talk of, well, when you met him, did you love him? Did you care for him? Never is that word entered into the discussion. It's always, I'm interested in this guy. He's a high value guy. You know, I think it would be a good couple. But that word of love never comes up. And we know that in the Kemetic tradition, the tradition of our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, love was governed by the goddess, Ma'at. And what does Ma'at tell us about love? Love is giving, seeking nothing in return. A type of unrequited love. And the example of the highest form of love is God's love for you. You see, you can curse God out, you can deny God, but God, no matter what, will still love you. God doesn't require your obedience, despite what the Bible says. God doesn't require your obedience for him, her to love you. God loves you unconditionally. And our ancient ancestors knew this. This is why our relationships lasted so long in antiquity compared to modern day. Now, we had different type of relationships, you know, and they're still in existence today. There's still, polygamy, polyamorous relationships, monogamous relationships. But the one thing that is going to be the deciding factor over its longevity and your health, because when you love somebody and somebody loves you, you're more balanced, which is also an attribute of Ma'at, the highest expression of love. And then some of the other deities in the Kemetic pantheon represent love. Like, for example, we have the goddess Hathor or Heteru, and the image of her here. But her love is what we call is based on Twi, or a type of I love you if you are complimenting me and you love me back, and you're telling me how beautiful I am. And this is the type of love that is based on the senses, based on visual, how you look. This is why the representation is her with the flower smelling. And this is why she doesn't denote true love. But then we also have the love of Aset or Isis. And this is an image of her. And it's a love of devotion. You know, those type of ride or die chicks. And in this type of love, she searched the entire globe for the pieces of her husband, Osir, and reassembled him so he can rise. This is a love of devotion. So our ancestors have left these different concepts of relationships and love within the Egyptian pantheon, represented by these deities, Ma'at as well. But instead of us looking at those and practicing those principles, we have somehow got diverted and caught up in high value man, 6 figures. And this opens the door to materialism and basing your love on conditions, that you have a certain job, have a certain status, meet certain requirements that I have. And there's one more attribute I wanted to point out in a Ma'at love, is that Ma'at love is not an affectionate love, but it's a true love, meaning Ma'at doesn't necessarily shower her mate with affection, whereas Heteru would. Ma'at wouldn't, but it's still a deep love. And at certain stages in life, you may need that. For example, if you are a young woman or a young guy early on, let's say, for example, 18 to 25, you may need that type of Heteru affectionate love. That may be necessary. But if you're an older man, let's say, your 40s and over, you can probably understand more of a Ma'at love, where it's not as an affectionate, but it is definitely a deep love with a purpose. And again, we have forgotten these notions in favor of these ideas of someone bringing and adding to me. Now, it's not to say that that's a bad idea, of somebody coming along and complimenting you, because that's where we get the idea of, a soulmate or a twin flame. But when it comes as a prerequisite with material things, as such I said before, of high value, 6 figures, you have to be CEO of a corporation. You have to be like, have a high status at a club, be a promoter, things of that nature, then it's just not real. And unfortunately, within the Black community, this is what has been promoted. This is what has replaced love. These erroneous ideas of what the foundation of a relationship should be about. And again, this falls back on the church, because it was the church's responsibility to promote the true idea of love and a union between a man and a woman. And instead of doing this, the church just catered to whatever was going on in popular media vis-a-vis Beyonce and what she was saying, so that the minister can get tithes from the women, rather than the minister holding these women. And the reason why I'm saying women, because a lot of men are not going to church. And instead of holding these women accountable for certain things, like having these babies out of wedlock, they have stayed silent and contributed to the problem that the oligarchy started. It's this domino effect, this cascading effect, starting from the top with the ruling elite, putting out the message, you don't need a man, you could be an independent woman. Then putting out these notions to men, join MGTOW. Then having the church not discuss real love, or not discuss waiting to get married, to have a baby. And then what you see is a dysfunctional community. You see, as what you have in Chicago, young men and women being brought up without any values or morals, and then go shooting and killing each other because they don't value each other, because they weren't raised in a nuclear family, which the oligarchy has made into something evil. As if having two parents, male and female, is something wrong with that. And they have done the study after study after study that shows that children who come from single parent households are more likely to end up in the prison to pipeline system, or the pipeline to prison system, whatever. And again, when you see these kids shooting each other, this is a form of self-hatred. This is a form of a lack of love in their family life, in their relationships with their mothers, their fathers. Hence, the video I played of Kevin Samuels telling this young girl that before you can get together with this 34-year-old man, you need to reconcile your daddy issues. And he was absolutely 100% true. And this also demonstrates, if you watched that video I just played, then you know that the propaganda that was put out there to suppress the message of Kevin Samuels and others like him, because he was trying to put information out there to help women, not to disrespect them, not to make fun of them, but to help them. And if you disagree with that, then that's fine. That's your right. Then don't watch his channel. But the reality is there were women that were freely calling into his channel. No one was coercing them. No one had a gun to their head. They were actively calling his channel because they knew he gave out good advice. But the spin put out there by the oligarchy was that he was disrespecting women. He was making fun of women. Because the reality is some women don't want to be corrected. And they know that they're doing things wrong. If you're having babies if you have 3 different kids by 3 different baby daddies, and Kevin Samuel tells you that's not right, well, you don't want to hear that. You just want to do what you want to do. You don't want to hear the fact that you're putting these young kids on the street and you can't adequately raise them because you don't have enough money and you don't have enough time. So the streets are raising them and they're becoming gangbangers and contributing to the problems in our country, or at least in the Black community. But you don't want to be corrected and you don't want to hear the right thing. And I think, again, the Christian church with many of these ministers have picked up on that, and therefore they don't teach or hold you accountable, teach the right things or hold you accountable. They don't tell you you should have a loving relationship with somebody you want to marry and settle down with. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing when done right, but we're not doing it right. Guys are hooking up with women, knocking them up. Women are having these babies and realizing the guys were no good because for some reason, a lot of these women go for the bottom 20% of men who don't have a job, who many have criminal records. Many cheat on them. They have other babies with other women. Now, that statistic is accurate, that the women having these babies by these men, they're sharing the men. They're sharing the bottom 20% of men. And that's due to women who go after men who are socially proved, social proof, which goes back to us in our clan, our tribes, when women who had to make a quick decision on what men to get with would typically pick men who were already picked by other women. Social validation. They were socially validated by other women. So if other women were dating them, then that woman would say, he's probably good for me. So these 20% of the men that these women are sharing and having babies with, these women know that these men have babies with other women, but that's social proof. Again, a throwback from ancient times. Social validation. He's more desirable because other women want him. Regardless of the fact that he's not a good person. But meanwhile, the good men are being overlooked. And there's reasons for that. Quite frankly, because the women in our culture are taught to look for swag versus education, versus morality. It's a hard pill to swallow. And we don't like the truth. We hate the truth. We hate hearing it so much that when Kevin Samuels was talking the truth, he got death threats. These women were trying to mobilize to get him taken off YouTube. Why? He was just speaking the truth and trying to help women. But you see, we're so backwards now. We're so screwed up that, and I predicted this a long time ago. I said that the ruling elite is not going to create a coup to take over the government and institute a one world government. What they're going to do is enslave our minds to such a degree that we will willingly participate in our own enslavement. And that's what you see these women doing. Along comes these men who, not just Kevin Samuels, but other men. BGS Ipmore, you know. These men who come along, like Dr. Thunder, to help to mend the problems between men and women. And he's sabotage. They're sabotaged by their own people. Because we're so brainwashed that we side with the oppressor. When we tell you that having children out of wedlock is not a good thing, you get upset and you want to take somebody off YouTube. You want to flag their videos. When we talk about that the basis of a relationship should be love, you get upset and you want to remove them from this planet. Because we have been so programmed and twisted in our mindsets to go against our own self-interest, to go against our own preservation. That's why I said a long time ago that this new world that we're going into will be a world where we will fight for our own enslavement. We will want to be slaves. Elon Musk, he's now rolling out his chip to be put in your brain. He's testing this on humans. This is scary. This is a very, very scary notion. Now you can say, well, I'm not going to get that chip put in my brain. That's great. That's great. But what are you going to do when they start rolling it out and people have this chip in their brain where they can instantly communicate with the internet and they're smarter, more intelligent, and jobs are only requiring people with those chip implants? Because with those chip implants, you can speak multiple languages. So you become antiquated, obsolete. You become a caveman. Because without that chip, you can't access the storehouse of information that's the internet. But with that chip, you can pull up anything. Anything. You could instantly know trigonometry, instantly become a rocket scientist. But without that chip, you have no chance of competing in the new world. So what will you do? You're going to fight and say, give me the chip, because I need to make money for my family. And I can't make any money because I don't have the chip. You know what I'm saying? I'm obsolete. That's how it's going to happen. That's how you're going to fight to be enslaved. And then the chip, which is going to be connected to the internet, is going to be connected to the new AI. And then that AI is going to be a super intelligent computer, which will dictate to you what to do and what not to do. And there is the loss of free thinking. There is a loss of individuality. And all of your thoughts can be uploaded into this new cloud, into this new AI. And we will embrace the dystopian future of mind control, of a loss of freedoms, rights, and autonomy. And we will embrace George Orwell's world of 1984. It will have come to pass without a revolution, without an uprising, without bullets flying, without protests, without marches. That's how it's going to happen. Watch. I'm telling you the truth. It's going to be a sad future, but you can do something now. I want to thank you for checking out this broadcast. And if you get an opportunity, please feel free to donate to the channel. Your donation would be much appreciated. And I hope this message resonates with you and that you do take some type of action, whether it be to change your criteria in terms of who you're getting with and basing it more on love than on what does that person have. And getting to know them. There's nothing wrong with that. It can be a bright future because we live in a world or a reality of infinite possibilities. Infinite possibilities. a world of superimpositions, meaning everything exists all at once. And that to make what you want a reality, you just simply make it your strongest and most dominant thought. And then it comes to pass. But you'll never do that if you allow someone else to do the thinking for you. This is Qesankh Ma Keperu, son of Ma and Tahuti. My aunt is the beautiful goddess Heteru. Until my next video, Amun Ra.